Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Long Shots, our weekly podcast where me and Sharad discuss anything relevant, interesting and intriguing from the world of business and finance. Before we move further, a friendly reminder to all our listeners, we are now streaming live on iTunes, Google Podcast, Spotify, Deezer, and pretty much any podcast app that you like or admire. So do subscribe to our channel so that you get that nice little notification every time our episode goes live. So once again, this is Nikhil Arora and I have with me Sharad Tupran.
Hi Nikhil, how are you? I really look forward to Thursdays because it's the one day where we actually get to record the stuff that we talk through the week and
Yes, the high value pearls of wisdom that we discuss through the week. Now other people also get the benefit of hearing that. Are you referring to that, Sharad?
Yeah, we'll let our listeners decide how high value it is. But for me, it's just fun doing this, engaging myself in this banter and getting a chance to record ourselves and share it with whoever's listening.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, likewise. And today it's going to be no different because there's so much on our plate.
Yeah, and this is obviously, I'm guessing you're referencing to the budget, of course.
Yes, I'm referring to the budget, but before that, the weekend is also pretty caught up. Republic Day, 26th of January. How excited are you, Sharad?
Yeah, fairly good. I mean, I don't know. As a kid, I remember used to watch it on TV. I've never actually been to the parade and actually seen it real time live.
Right.
But I think you have seen it a couple of times, and
I've seen it twice.
Oh yeah, and do you have plans for this weekend as well?
Yes, I will be going there.
Interesting. Yeah, are you looking forward to it?
I am. I mean, I really like that entire tradition and show around it.
Yeah, so do I.
I think it kind of adds something special. I know, like, there's a lot of discussion around how it's a big expense on the exchequer, on the taxpayer or whatever, right? But I think I recently read that book Sapiens, and these kind of imaginary frameworks are essential for large populations to coordinate with each other, and a country is no different.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So, but yeah, I mean, I always read about it at least, and should be fun. I look forward to hearing your experience on Monday morning.
Yes, and actually, even the more interesting thing after the Republic Day is the beating retreat on 29th.
Yeah,
I think that's a slightly more solemn proceeding, but
low key,
like slightly more low key, but because it's more smaller and intimate and in setting, I think the impact is pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, this was another tradition which is coming the week following on Friday, 1st of Feb. That's the interim budget.
Yeah.
And you know what the interim budget is. Obviously, I mean, for the benefit of listeners, it's basically a budget presented by the government which is going through a transition period. And as we know, with general elections due this year by May at the max, because I think June is when the Lok Sabha is supposed to dissolve, this would be demarcated as an interim budget. And what would happen is that when the new government, whichever it may, comes to power, then there'll be a full year budget which comes following that. Well, interim budgets are pretty strange, Sharad. I mean, in terms of the kind of limitations they are supposed to put on the government of the day.
And historically, are they significant? Do they move the needle significantly, or are they like interim? If you take literally, is it just interim? It's just an update.
I mean,
or is it a mix of both?
I mean, I frankly feel that any budget is just a transitional or incremental measure taken by the government. The media obviously is pretty obsessed about every single announcement that comes in, but I'm always amused at how during February, March, the markets react so vividly to every cue or announcement given by the FM, and following the couple of quarters, nobody actually looks back and sees that, okay, this was announced, what is the follow-up? So I think, the markets and the media kind of obsesses about, this piece of information. But, I mean, in terms of actual real impact, it's just a roadmap for things to come.
I think people are generally just obsessed in predicting the future. Right. But when it actually happens, I think very few people actually go back and sort of digest and analyze it.
Yeah.
There is a thrill with trying to predict it, make a big, drive a huge suspicious narrative around it. And that sells, I guess, right?
Yeah, that sells. Yeah, that's a good story always. And this year, I don't think it's going to be any way different because technically, the government of the day is not supposed to get overtly ambitious in the interim budget. They're supposed to basically make sure that they have funds running till the end of the financial year with a few months spillover, so that after the elections, till the new government takes control, the government keeps functioning. Otherwise, there will be a shutdown. Like the United States.
That'll be funny. I don't know how.
I was about to say like our. Then I thought, what, they are not related to us in any way.
Yeah, it'd be so funny to see a India government shutdown. I don't even know how. What, like, I can't even imagine how it would be like.
Yeah, I find it pretty amusing how it works out in the US, but I guess that's the system, right? Where the executive or the White House literally needs to get the federal budget approved every year, whereas I think here things are a bit more understated, which I like, frankly. I mean, government shutdown, come on. I think it's not day 32.
Yeah, it's over a month now. Yeah,
it's
crazy. And so let's just talk a little bit on the budget. I know, like, incentivizing farmers and universal basic income, these are sort of things that always come up. What are they, and what other things are worth just talking about, I guess?
I mean, it's the timing is interesting because obviously the elections are due, so everybody expects some sort of a populist sentiment to come through, and obviously the most populist segments of the population are middle class and the farmers, right? So I think those both of them, and middle class especially, with GST, with demonetization, the narrative is that they have been specifically hit hard and they form a core constituency of the BJP. So there will be some sops to kind of make them relax. There was already a build up to that through GST, as you must have seen. The GST Council has been meeting fairly aggressively in the last couple of weeks, and the rates have been further rationalized. But I think the biggest expectation from the budget is along the lines of personal income tax, especially on the low income bracket of 2.5 lakh, where currently it's tax free. I think that threshold will be increased to now 3 lakhs. That's an expectation.
And I read somewhere increased to 5 lakhs as well. Irrespective, I think directionally they want to increase that.
Directionally kind of reduce the tax burden in that category, and also possibly increase some deductions, especially with respect to investments. Be it in life insurance, PPF, etc. So increase the threshold for the deduction as well. And the usual stuff, around home loans, giving some benefits for both the repayment of principal as well as interest. So that is one big bucket of expected announcements. The second big bucket, as you pointed out correctly, is farmers. So be it low interest loans or be it UBI. UBI, I think, is a perpetual topic which is thrown every time the budget comes in. I don't see it coming in a comprehensive way, maybe in some piecemeal way. It can be brought about. I've never heard anything substantial come out of any UBI related announcement. It's a popular narrative that keeps coming up, right?
Guessing and second guessing with numbers thrown around, but nothing ever happens. So maybe a case of another.
Plus, I think it's also, currently, let's face some facts, right? The government has imposed a fiscal deficit target of 3.3%, which I think it is struggling to maintain. We are reading,
despite share buybacks.
Which share buybacks?
Also dividends.
Dividends. Yeah, right. So in case of the government, as you can realize, the GST accruals are supposed to be below expectation to date, and so it's already trying to scrape its way through managing 3.3%. And on top of that, I don't really think there'll be like a big UBI announcement. Tax adjustments, minor tax adjustments on the personal income tax side, sure, why not? But on the farmer side, I think a major announcement, I would assume, is a low probability event, but we have all been surprised before when the government, kind of takes the interim budget as a platform to appeal to the wider electorate. Chidambaram did that. Chidambaram in 2014-15 announced OROP, one rank, one pension in the army. And I think only around a couple of 100 crores was actually allocated to that. In the end, 7,500 crores ended up being spent. So there was a wide disparity in between what was announced in the budget and the outlay that was actually allocated to it. The present FM, Mr. Jaitley, had expressed his views against it. So I'm hoping he doesn't repeat the same thing. But it's politics.
And I remember last year, Arun Jaitley had also talked about phasing out the 28% GST slab.
Right.
Now, will that make it through this interim budget? Who knows? But clearly, I mean, now there's GST has become gone just so it's not solely under the FM's purview. I mean, there's a council established as well. But I think there might be some discussion around tax restructuring in terms of slabs and what not to do, because they have been talking. Remember, we talked about extensively about those must-have. The list that they had come up with, 21 must-have items for the GST. So, in a continuation of those things, who knows? But that will be another interesting thing. But outside of that, what else is there? Like from a business standpoint?
I read a bit of noise around NBFCs.
Yeah.
That, with this entire ILNFS issue, the liquidity in the NBFC space has pretty much shrank. So there might be some sort of easing of wholesale funding norms to NBFCs. I was already following, I think, wasn't it even yesterday, where a request was given to RBI to ease the provisions for banks who are lending to ILNFS. Two mutual funds got ranked down. In parallel to that, I think a couple of banks were asked to chill out against ILFS. So as to say,
cut them some slack.
So I think that theme is pretty prominent. So there might be some relaxation along, securitization norms, around RWA requirements of banks who are lending to NBFC, so that they can continue lending to them in a more easy manner. But I mean, the budget is again interesting because if you actually Google interim budget, in every sector there's a recommendation, or there's an expectation, be it railways, be it aviation. But I mean, I think, and technically the government cannot be stopped from doing it. It does have the provision of passing finance bills directly through the Lok Sabha, and kind of breach the tradition of being a bit moderated in the interim budget. But I mean, I think considering it's the election year with the fiscal deficit constraints, I think probably the government would only appeal to the widest electorate, that is the farmers and the middle class, in some way or the other.
Let's see how. I mean, it's next Friday. Let's see how it is. I suspect it's going to be very muted in terms of no groundbreaking decisions coming out of it. But let's see. We can obviously wait for it and see what happens. And in line with historical interim budgets, nothing massively significant to move the needle, I guess.
Right.
And let's see how that goes.
Well, I mean, in terms of the private sector and the financial space as well, plenty of interesting things going on. And we like to talk a lot about startups. So I thought we can maybe next talk about Ola. I mean, I don't even think that Ola is any longer can be classified as a startup. But did you must have noticed that Ola recently applied for an NBFC license.
Yeah, I did read about it. It's very interesting, and not the only ones who are embracing this strategy or looking at NBFC or looking at payments as a next leg of growth, right? Yeah,
I mean, Ola has been, I think, pretty aggressive in trying to find its next leg of growth. It entered food delivery, it bought Food Panda.
Overseas as well.
Overseas, then it went into pharma delivery. I think the main game that is being played here is that they know that they have a big consumer grab on their platform one way or the other, right? And what are the different
upselling? What else can you upsell?
What else can you upsell from them? Exactly. So I mean, interestingly, they already have this thing called Ola Credit, which is like kind of a pay later product where you kind of you take a few rides, but you pay in a cumulative manner later. So it pretty much proxies a debit or a credit card in a way. But I think with applying for an NBFC license, they are getting properly into the short-term credit space. They might launch a credit card in partnership. They might also consider selling insurance to drivers. And the question is what the model is going to be. I'm pretty sure they don't want to underwrite. I think they would like to obviously like those clean fee and commission based income streams. Bringing on board some sort of a banking partner.
Take the low risk route, right? I mean, avoid the dirt of underwriting.
Plus that's a different business, right?
It's a different ballgame altogether.
Then you need to kind of look into credit risk and better to leave it to the banks and financial institutions to do that.
And it also helps that digital payments as an ecosystem itself can now support such plays.
Yeah.
Over 100 million people connected on digital payments now in India. That's pretty sizable. So it's obviously leveraging the sectoral tailwinds, if you will.
But I think, a lot of the fintech platforms are basically the online lending platforms who currently operate as a origination vehicle for banks and NBFCs. I'm sure they'll get worried because Ola is a big player. Ola has lots of consumer data, and credit that way is a pretty fascinating area. Because there are some very interesting cues of consumer behavior which can give a sense of how good a credit they can be. Like I was reading, I think a couple of years back, it was which company it was? I think M-Pesa, which when they entered Africa, M-Pesa is this kind of a retail level lending proposition.
Very interesting, really good friend of mine who was working there in Africa had first-hand experience with those guys and sort of business models, and I found it very amusing, which is a subject of conversation for another day when we probably can get him here. But
that would be great.
So M-Pesa, go on.
So they, for instance, they came up with this kind of a model where they were, tracking prepaid balances in a person's SIM card, and they were seeing that someone who tops up as soon as the balance is somewhere close to being zero versus someone who waits for it to go to absolutely to zero before topping up, there's a direct correlation with how good a credit the first is versus the second. So those kind of small customer cues, and I'm pretty sure Ola would have a wealth of such data, right? In terms of how people are paying back short-term credit.
It'll be interesting. And Ola is obviously taking a more direct route, but there's so many guys who are sort of flirting with this line. Just when you look at money, Jio Money, Airtel Money, Ola Money, there's just so many guys. Paytm, the big boy.
I think Paytm went the other way, right? Paytm, they started with payments. And they went to, they started with prepaid mobile and DTH. Right? From there, they moved to payments. From there, they moved to e-commerce. And then from e-commerce, they went back to investment brokerage, through Paytm Money.
Now you can buy mutual funds as well through a lot of these e-wallets.
Right.
Things are it's all about sort of positioning yourself in a way which offers you the highest reward to risk ratio. And leverage this whole entire digital payment ecosystem.
I think in India and China it's very interesting because in the US and Europe, these sectors are very clearly delineated. You have the underwriters who take the credit risk. Then in terms of distribution channels, what do you have? You have web, you have tied agents, right? And web, when you look at web, the typical idea that comes there is it's a marketplace. Whereas in India, when you look at web, it's not just a marketplace. It's guys it's consumer-facing platforms like Ola. It's companies like Paytm,
PhonePe, Flipkart on PhonePe. There's just so many.
So within the web itself, there's a wide plethora of distribution agents which you have in India and China versus what you have in the US or in UK and Europe. I think here the payments ecosystem is that way. It has kind of leapfrogged its way ahead. To Western counterparts.
And obviously demonetization, we were talking about it, has a role to play in terms of moving towards
Does it? That's the magical question, Sharad.
I think so.
Right. I think in terms of pretty much
incentivizing,
pigeonholing or cornering people in that category, I'm sure it does.
I was reading some, I can't remember who it was, I think it was a Credit Suisse equity research report which said that digital payments in India could hit $1 trillion by fiscal 23. That's massive. I don't know of any other number close to this in the other part of the world where it's entirely digital. Should be interesting.
No wonder RBI is also paying attention to the payments space. And obviously we started this conversation by looking at Ola's entry into, I would say, as a lending origination platform. But it's all pretty correlated, right? In the payments domain, I think it was RBI came out with a policy paper recently where it kind of, said that there are 89 players in the payments domain across value chains.
Of which?
And in that, there are a few categories of I don't exactly remember the product mapping, but within payments, obviously you have, the PPIs, who are the wallets. Then you have pure play payments players. You have ATM networks. There are all these sublinks within that. And a few of these subcategories, you have hardly one company or 4 or 5 companies who are doing that. And the RBI is look, the competition has to be spiked up. And that's why they, I think, are also starting on-tap licensing for payments players going forward. So yeah, plenty of things going on, and I think they kind of see the 1 trillion number in their mind, and they want to make sure that the regulatory regime is ready to embrace it.
Yeah. And no, that's pretty interesting and definitely worth keeping a close eye on how this payment and adjacent industries sort of unfold. So, have you ever bought a mutual fund from any of your mobile e-wallet?
Oh no, actually I haven't.
An index fund?
Index fund, I used to have exposure to them in the UK, but not since I'm here. But yeah, I like index funds. Index funds, even though the former investment banker in me also grudges their success as a product, but I get the sense behind them. I like them.
Yeah, do you want to spend a minute talking about Jack Bogle, who passed away last week and who's known to be the father of index fund?
Vanguard, right?
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
absolutely. I mean, he started index funds. Did he start them, or he kind of brought them to the map or something?
He's known to be the architect behind it.
Right.
Honestly, I don't know the technicalities of was he the first man to start it, but he's widely credited with it in 1975, 1976, I think.
Right.
Tracking the S&P 500.
Right. And so how are, for the benefit of the listeners, how are index funds different from mutual funds? Like, what's the main demarcation?
The main thing is that mutual fund would involve an element of stock picking. Actively managing it, whereas an index fund would be dormant or passive. It would just track the entire market.
Right.
And you and I have talked about how easy or how difficult it is to beat the market by fund managers, and data would tell you that it's
so basically index fund is something which can track like the Nifty 50 as it is.
Will never the same weights.
Yeah, same weights will never beat Nifty 50, but a mutual fund or actively managed fund would have fund managers who are going to pick a diversified portfolio and get that so-called elusive alpha.
Elusive alpha, I like that.
Right.
So I mean, it's one of the oldest debates, right, in capital markets and amongst traders and sales guys and researchers and even bankers is how easy or how difficult is it to beat the market.
Right.
Because everyone talks about the times when they beat the market. No one talks about the times when no one beats that market.
Correct.
I mean, do you know which asset class if you were sitting in US, which was the top performing asset class last year in 2018?
Gold?
It was cash.
Nice.
It beat gold, it beat crude was obviously down massively. Real estate was down, emerging market stocks were down.
Right.
It was cash that held up well, right? I mean, no one would talk about it.
Right. Even in India, I think the most
wouldn't be surprised,
interesting or most successful asset class was fixed deposits.
Yeah, which is cash.
Which is cash, pretty much. And but I mean, it's what's fascinating is how theoretically, index funds make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because I remember Corporate Finance 101, we had this thing called the efficient market hypothesis.
Correct, yeah.
Where, which basically says this, right? That there are no asymmetries in the market and everything is priced in and it's impossible to beat the market.
Yeah.
Unless you have some insider information.
Over the longer run, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I think probably India still, I don't feel is kind of ready to embrace index funds in the same spirit, because I think there are inefficiencies here at play.
I agree. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think in Western markets, it kind of, especially with high frequency trading going on, I'm pretty sure index funds make a good alternate for a retail investor.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Jack Bogle's argument was not just on the side of beating the market or having superior returns, but also that it's low cost.
Yeah.
Which gets factored into your overall return as an investor, right?
Right.
So his argument was that to get superior returns over the longer term, you have to factor in the costs associated with active management or mutual funds or any fund like that.
Right.
And index fund is a low cost management thing, and those returns have to be factored in.
Right.
And it was sort of a return to cost trade off that an index fund offers, which you probably do not get over the longer term with a mutual fund.
Right.
And it makes a lot of intuitive sense. It's obviously revolutionized the fund industry. I mean, I know a lot of very, very extremely talented equity analysts who also invest significantly in index funds. So, I mean, it seems like a very counterintuitive thing.
The ultimate sin they have committed, right?
Ultimate sin, right? So it is what it is, right? I mean, it's not easy to beat the market.
Yeah, and I mean, plus I think there are, I mean, all these kind of experiments where I think a lot of behavioral economists have done that, right? They're like, they brought a cat or a parrot and they opened like the stock chart or they opened the stock index pages of the Financial Times and asked the cat or the parrot to just point to like 15-20 stocks, and they perform better than like the so-called behemoth fund managers of the street.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's all fun, but I don't know if that's sustainable over the longer term.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's the capital markets coming out.
Yeah.
But I've seen dartboards as well, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I think it also depends on the horizon that you have and the type of investor you are.
Yeah.
So if suppose you are like you're an institutional player and who wants to kind of hedge a position or trade, do make a speculative bet, fine. I mean, you need to kind of have that kind of fundamental or technical view. But yeah, if you're a retail investor who just wants to put your money somewhere so that it makes a better return than what you would make in a bank account,
yeah,
index funds work well.
Yeah, and Vanguard, like you said, is that the guys who sort of got it to the mass world. They run about 5 trillion globally.
Yeah.
So big boys, right? And and
I think now index funds are probably bigger than mutual funds in the US, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
That makes sense.
But I mean, it makes a lot of intuitive sense also from the perspective of look at the regular guy, man, who is doing who has like a busy job, who has things. Does he really have the time to actively look at how his portfolio is trailing? Unless he kind of pays some fancy fund manager or some broker to look into it at a regular level. I don't think most people don't, right? I mean, so it's better to kind of just go through this kind of a commoditized product rather than pay an extra amount. I mean, it seems so commonsensical right now, but I was reading that John Bogle got a lot of flack when he had suggested
initially, all sort of new revolutionary ideas which sort of threaten the establishment, if you will, generally get the same treatment, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I mean, listen, fund management is heavily it's a big industry. The fees associated with are massive.
Right.
So when index fund comes and threatens it,
Yeah.
I can obviously see some backlash. And any fund manager, I mean, he or she will never like to be thought about as adding not minimum value or actually destroying value.
Right.
So that's sort of what he's
The
arguing.
meaning of their life.
Yeah, so I can see that, but listen, I mean, it's obviously there is it's an important asset class, if you will, not even asset class, but an instrument, and I think it will increasingly become more and more prominent.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree with you. And yeah, on that note, I think would like to wish all our listeners a happy Republic Day if you are from India. Otherwise, also no harm in being happy for another country. Please do feel free to share your valuable feedback, rate our podcast, and let us know if you're doing something right or if you're doing something wrong. It would really help us a lot in improving these weekly proceedings. And yeah, that's it. I think we can now sign off. This is Nikhil.
And this is Sharad.
Signing off.